Okay, so hi everyone, welcome back to this coronavirus lockdown interview series. I'm delighted this afternoon to be joined by Rumbi the medic, a final year medical student who previously worked as a midwife and I think does still sometimes work as a midwife, um, despite having just finished medical school and you're now a baby doctor. Um, Thanks for being on today, Rumbi.
Thank you very much for having me. I have been procrastinating about getting on here, and then I saw the consistency, the amazing interviews that Ollie has been doing, and I begged. I had to actually message him begging, like, please, please have me.
I think this collaboration has been a long time coming. Um, Yeah, so I think it would be useful, boys and girls at home, just are you able to just give us a brief chat? Who are you? What was your journey like to where you are today?
Yes, yeah, completely. So I'm Rumbi. On Instagram, I'm Rumbi the Medic. On YouTube, I'm also Rumbi the Medic. And I'm a final year medical student and have finished. I'm in that limbo bit between like you finished uni, but you're not yet working as a doctor. The bit in the middle, basically, is where I'm at. And before I studied medicine, I studied midwifery and have literally went from I finished midwifery on like the 10th of September and started medicine on the 20th. So there wasn't really a big gap, but have always worked as a midwife throughout studying medicine because £9,000 a year is not cheap. But I've really, looking back, I really enjoyed uni. And so I thought I would YouTube about it and do like a Medici Instagram. And you get to meet so many interesting people, be part of a community. And that's basically me. I'm a YouTube Instagram medica, Medici.
Amazing. So if we let's start with midwifery then, since that seems like the logical place to start. So was that when you were 18 and you or whatever and you're thinking about going to uni, you did midwifery first?
So when I was 18 or 17 or whatever, when you're applying for UKCAT, I did four medicine options and one midwifery option. I didn't get into medicine the first time. I was not going to take a gap year. Like that just wasn't the life for me. But I always knew that midwifery was always my fifth option, was always my backup. Because it's something I would have enjoyed. It's hands-on, At that time, it was a free NHS degree. And I just thought, okay, if I'm not going to be a doctor, I can be a midwife. So I did. I got in. It was amazing, like a really fun 3 years. Really, really hard. I don't know whether it's because I was younger and everything always seems harder when you're like in the workplace for the first time and you're young, but it was so hard. And then in my second year of midwifery, I applied for medicine for exactly the year that I finished. So it worked out really well for me that I got a place and then, voila, here we are. 8 years later, mad.
So why it kind of begs the question, when people I it sounds very much like you wanted to do medicine the first time around, like yeah, so many of us did. Um, Midwifery is not the typical fifth choice. Biomed or MedSci or any of these, other things that even things like nursing. Midwifery seems like an unusual choice to me. Why?
Why midwifery? Um, I was never going to do biomed. I was never going to do biomedical science because I thought, right, if I don't get in this time, that was my logical thinking. If I don't get in this time, and then in 3 or 4 years' time, I have a biomed degree that I don't really want, and then I don't get into medicine, what am I going to do? So that was my line of like, absolutely no way was I going to do biomed because I'm not a labby person. I'm not a chemistry type person. I'm a people person. Now, the nursing degree at that time wasn't like top for me because it just seemed a lot, like all the general stuff didn't seem that much fun to me. And the way their entry requirements compared to the midwifery entry requirements were just slightly different. They were looking at like B-Tech stuff and health and social, things like that. Whereas midwifery kind of was asking a bit more science-based stuff, which was the stuff that I had anyway. Plus with midwifery, you are an independent practitioner. You can prescribe certain things. You can, you are your own, I don't know. I don't want to insult any other profession. So very like touchy.
Well, they're different, they're different roles.
Exactly. So with nursing, you are not necessarily an independent practitioner unless you're like a nurse prescriber or a very advanced nurse practitioner. Whereas in midwifery, out of the gate, you are in charge of a normal labour. There doesn't need to be any doctors involved if everything's going smoothly. Anyone that's done obs and gynae knows when you step onto a labour ward, that is,
That's my next set of questions. Don't worry.
So it was, for me at that time, it just seemed closer to medicine for me. It seemed like it had all the things that I wanted in medicine, except without being a doctor. That's why for me midwifery was like the logical second choice, as opposed to nursing or biomed or anything like that.
Good answer. So you've brought me very nicely onto my next question, which is so there are no doctors in my family, but I do have family that have worked in the NHS. And my mum, I remember when I was about to start medical school, she gave me one bit of advice, which was, Ollie, when you're going into the workplace and you're becoming part of the NHS, there are two groups of people that you do not tread on the toes of. One is psychiatric nurses and the other are midwives. So I get the feeling that sometimes there is an antagonistic relationship between gynae doctors and, medical staff more generally, and midwives. And this is something that I've seen firsthand. I know it's not just like a meme, as it were. Yeah. Why is this?
So I think we are trained differently. So midwives are trained differently from doctors. I am one of the lucky few people that have seen both perspectives. When you're a student midwife, you are there, it feels like 24/7. You are there 37 and a half hours a week. I'll talk about it from a student perspective and then we'll go to a professional level because there is definitely dynamics. Like as a student midwife, you're there 37 and a half hours a week. You know how the place runs. You are like a part of the team. As a fourth year medical student, you are kind of there as and when. You are following the doctor's rota, and doctors on labour ward they don't necessarily spend the whole day on labour ward. Maybe they're going to clinics and doing other things. So then you don't get to be part of the labour ward feel. And then there's the whole thing about deliveries. So student midwives need to get 40 deliveries to qualify. The sister knows them, all the other midwives know them, they see them regularly. So whenever someone's about to deliver, they're going to get preference. Like it is what it is. And then as a medical student, you also need deliveries. So, and it's not your fault or it's not our fault that the way our course is structured, we only get 2 weeks on labour ward or 1 week on labour ward, 1 week in gynae, 1 week in clinics. So when you're there, you kind of feel like you're pressured, you're under pressure to get those deliveries. And I think then the issue becomes, as a labouring woman, you don't want like 6 pairs of eyes looking in your nether regions as you're having a baby. So the preference then always goes to student midwife. And then the medical student seems or feels like they're always being kicked out of rooms and you've waited for hours and hours to get this one delivery and you can't. And I think that's the beginning of the antagonistic relationship. And from then on, it just goes, professionally between midwives and doctors. I've seen some really good working between midwives and doctors, like really, really good working. But again, the downside is as doctors, we will rotate through jobs. So you spend 6 months in one hospital, or if you're lucky, a year in one hospital, a year in another hospital. That's really good. But a lot of the time it's like 6 months here. So you don't really get to know the team and the personalities and how to kind of interact. And every labour ward has its own dynamics. every labor ward sister has their own like way of running their labor ward. So you as a doctor, one little misstep, something that was fine with the other labor ward sister, and then this labor ward sister, you think, things run the same, and they're like, no, don't tell me what I do here. And you're in the bad books for the rest of the 6 months. It's like, it's really, really, I think as doctors on labor ward, we'll just have to accept that we don't run it. We do as we are told. And then we give medical opinions when we are asked. And just always respect the opinions of midwives, basically. That's what I would say. The reason why I've seen a lot of difficulty sometimes is a midwife is in the room with a woman the whole time. Whereas as a doctor, you come in and you leave. You spend 5 minutes and you leave. So it's easy, let's say, just an example, a mum really, really wants a cesarean section. She's begging for a cesarean section. She's like, I've had enough, blah, blah, blah. And as the midwife says, okay, can you have a chat with this mum? You come in for 3 minutes, you say to the mum, listen, everything is going normally. We don't recommend a cesarean section, and you leave. But now the midwife is left with having to like console and comfort the backlash. So it's all interpersonal skills. If you have good interpersonal skills as a doctor, you will be okay on the labor ward. But lots of women, lots of estrogen, and you pack that all together could make a volatile working environment if you misstep.
Fair enough. That's a decent. Can I just check, Rumbi? Have you still got your phone recording? Yeah, cool. That's fine. Okay, good. So good to explore that from someone who has seen, both sides of that equation. So, worked as a midwife, doing medical school. Was it a 4-year or a 5-year program that you're on? 5 years. So, the next question that I kind of have is, does your previous career as a midwife, has that affected the kinds of specialties that you might be interested in?
So when I started medicine, I was always like, I want to be a GP. I would love to be a GP. My 4th year GP placement was phenomenal. Really enjoyed it. I was like, I'm going to be a GP. Part of my elective was actually a GP placement. So, I was really into it. And then I came back from elective. Even my obs and gynae placement, I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel like I wanted to do obs and gynae. And then I came back from elective, like 3 weeks. My first placement in final year was another GP placement. It was a 2-week placement. And at the end of that 2 weeks, I was like, I don't want to be a GP. So as a 4th year in my GP placement, it was very, you think you're doing everything, but you're actually not. Like the GP is doing so much for you to think that you're doing everything. Meanwhile, I was just there asking the questions, taking a history, and then maybe doing like a little something.
Yeah.
Whereas my final year GP placement, you do 90% of the stuff that you can, minus the prescribing. When the GP comes into the room, it's literally a quick summary. Double check with the patient that you've not said anything that, I've not misunderstood anything, but I need to have a diagnosis, I need to have a management plan, I need to have explained everything, I need to have done everything, And I was like, this is actually quite stressful. This is actually quite busy. And as a student, which I was more aware of in final year than I was in my 4th year placement for some reason, but as an actual GP, they do so much admin, so much. And there's a lack. You're in a room, and people come into your room, they leave your room. They come into your room, they leave your room. Whereas as a hospital doctor, yes, you go to see patients, but then you come out to like the nurse's station or the doctor's station, and you have a chat with your colleagues, and then maybe debrief about the patient you've just seen. And it's just, I don't know, yes, you work as a team in the GP practice, but you're more solo more of the time. And I feel like I'm just a people person. I want to be around people. So, like, a month into final year, I was like, I want to do obs and gynae. And everyone was looking at me like, whoa, who are you? And where have you put Rumbi? From first to fourth year, GP was it for me. But now I feel like obs and gynae is like my top at the moment, and GP is my second. I like stuff like psychiatry, so that would be like my third choice career-wise. So yeah, midwifery hadn't influenced me to do obs and gynae initially. It had actually pushed me away, because as midwives you see all the good stuff, normal deliveries, happy, joyous, beautiful, whereas obstetricians are normally only called in when things are maybe not going to plan. So I was like, I don't always want to just be there for the forceps or this emergency cesarean or things like that. But it's actually a really rewarding profession, I think. So yeah, midwifery didn't influence me to do obs and gynae initially, kind of pushed me away from it, but now I'm like, no, I'd love to do obs and gynae. Took me 4 years to realize that.
That's really, really interesting. It's always, I've spoken to a number of doctors now on here, and everyone has said, what you think you want to do in medical school is probably not what you will end up doing, and so on and so forth. I think it's probably worth at this point delving into COVID, this wonderful situation in which we find ourselves. Coronavirus, indeed, as our gal Cardi B would have it. Now, you've just graduated or finished medical school. Have you formally graduated?
No, not yet. As in, they've not sent the exam board have not met yet, if that makes sense, to graduate us. Yeah, not yet. That's supposed to be at some point this week.
Did you sit finals?
Yeah, finals. We were done with everything by Feb. Like, we got our results in March. PSA was done, and like nothing for us. The only thing that was affected by COVID was our assistantship. So instead of being 9 weeks, it ended up being 4 weeks. That was like the only impact. Whereas I know other people had huge, like no finals, no OSCEs, no nothing. Yeah, other people have had it tougher than we did, definitely.
Sure. So let's kind of this process then. So you, I guess in August, assuming everything goes to plan, you will be starting as an F1, a baby duck. How are you feeling about that?
I don't know. I'm excited, apprehensive. It's a weird time to be starting work, but better now than, every year will have its challenges. You're always going to be scared. No one's ever going to feel prepared to start. So you just might as well do it, I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Do you know what, have you got your F1 block?
Yep, everything. So my F1 is really strange. I'm not a huge fan. I probably shouldn't be saying this on the internet, but I'm not a huge fan of like medicines, like respiratory, cardiology, GI, which again, going back, is probably a reason why I didn't apply for nursing, because nursing is very heavy on those things. So my F1 rotation is surgery, more surgery, and then oncology. That's my F1. And everyone was looking at me like, where's the medicine? I was just like, no. But F2 is absolutely phenomenal. I have GP, obs and gynae, and A&E. So those are three things I was really excited to have. So yeah, extremely grateful.
That's very good. Was that reasonably high on your choices?
It was my second choice. Like I was so lucky, so lucky. But I guess the very heavy F1 surgery, people probably thought, nah, we don't want that. And they put it further down, but got my second choice. Very, very, very happy. Can't complain at all.
Amazing.
So yeah, those will be my F1 jobs. I don't know, like, because of COVID, there's no real elective surgeries going on. So I might end up on a medical ward anyway, because you don't need the F1s if you don't have the work for them. So who knows? It's all up in the air.
Amazing. I mean, it's one of those, yeah, I guess no one really knows what's going on, do they? Right, so the next thing I want to talk about very quickly is your kind of social media journey. You mentioned the YouTube and the Instagram and all this and that. And you were doing this, I believe, before I even got started, because I think when...
Well, I've had lots of bloggy, blah, blah, blah. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I seem to remember when I started that, and that would have been 2017, like the summer of 2017, you were already, like, I remember you being there, I think, at the time. So one of the earliest of the Medstagrammers and all that I became aware of. So where did all that come from?
So when I was like 17, 18, first applying for uni, I was watching Jane and JD. Was it then? I would say so, if they're like 2 years into residency now. Yeah. So there were like all these American medic YouTubers that were online, and I just loved it. It's especially when you're in the pre-med part of life, it's just really good or inspirational to see people, how they're like, what med school's like for them, their experiences. So that's kind of where it started for me. I used to have a blog, which I'm not going to say the name of. It had nothing at all to do with medicine. It was about hair.
Don't worry.
And I started that when I was 16. So I've had a blog since I was 16. And then I had a YouTube channel relating to that blog when I was like 17, 18-ish. So that's where my YouTube journey actually started. And then when I finally got into med school, I wasn't really doing the hair thing anymore. Like I was a different person, you know, I changed. And the other types of YouTube videos that I love to watch were the medic videos. So I was like, why not give it a go? I loved watching these as well. So why not just make some? So 2016 was when I made my first Rumbi the Medic type YouTube video. And I only made Rumbi the Medic Instagram in 2017. So you must have been one of the first people.
Yeah, just right at the same time.
So yeah, and some of my old videos, I watched them and I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. But I was such a baby, and it's just nice to see how far you've come and how you've changed and grown. And, you know, first year, or this is what I thought in first year, this is what I thought in... Some of my favorite YouTube videos of myself that I would maybe actually like watch again are my third year like general surgery videos, because it was such a nice time and it brings back nice memories. And it's just something to remember. In 10 years' time, I can be like, oh, this was how I felt when I was a student, and look at me now.
Amazing. I feel the same, you know, because particularly if, as you say, if you've got that content that it is yourself, but it tracks back. Because something that I find myself saying to pre-meds and early med students a lot, I'd be interested to know if you agree, it's that you have... I feel that the further on you get through medical school, your entire mentality changes several times.
Completely.
Yeah. You go through, I guess, every major set of exams you go through is like a big milestone, and then you can look back at yourself before all of that and sort of think, oh, it's interesting to see what I thought, you know, at this time. Then you sweet summer child who had no idea what was coming.
Exactly. It doesn't get easier. It definitely doesn't get easier. So you become tougher to match, really. So I completely agree with you.
So then the other element of all this that I wanted to talk about is that some medical social media platforms and things are very, you know, they're pictures of notes, or they're people vlogging their day. Yours is one of those ones that I personally clocked as being, it's a bit more vibrant, I think, than most accounts. Like, you're doing more it's more non-medicine stuff, even though it's a medical account.
I really never ever wanted at any point for someone to come to me and ask me medical advice on Instagram, ever.
Right.
So whenever I feel like my Instagram is a representation of me and various elements of my life. It is more medicine based because I do have another Instagram account which is more like my life. But I definitely didn't want it to be completely all like notes. And I do enjoy following the notes accounts because you go and you look at it and it's so beautiful and everything is so homogenized and it's just nice to look at. Whereas mine is like everywhere, you're looking at it, it's all types of pictures and But I would rather a more fuller representation of who I am as a person as opposed to just medicine focused. So I'd say it's more personality based than actual like focused on notes or focused on me in scrubs all the time or, you know, that type of thing.
Latte with stethoscope like curled around it.
I just would not be good at that because that's not me. Whereas I love taking a picture in scrubs. I love a scrub selfie, so I'm not going to diss that. I love it. So the odd scrub selfie, and so if you scroll down, you see there's lots of pictures of me in the library, maybe closer to the beginning. And then I just stopped going to the library that much. 4th and final year, I didn't really go to the library, so then I couldn't post pictures like that. And my notes are tragic. There's no way my notes could make it to Instagram. So you guys get what you get. You get a bit of me, a bit of real, you know? And some dancing. Who doesn't like dancing?
Right, yeah, let's talk about TikTok. Let's talk about dancing. What on earth has happened? Where has all this come from?
The TikTok and Zoom, if we find out they orchestrated COVID and quarantine, I would 100% believe it because I'd never even heard of TikTok. Well, I had heard of it, but I never ever had any desire to be on TikTok before quarantine started. And then everyone started making TikToks. I felt like I just got swept up in the whole dancing and TikTok.
I'm opening I downloaded it for the first time a couple of days ago.
Okay, so I downloaded it like 2 weeks ago, so it's addictive. Don't get too hooked on.
What have I got? Oh, look at this. I don't know if you can see. I got my 1 follower, 0 posts. So it was one of those things where I was like, look, everyone else is doing this. I am a slave to the curve and will do the same thing, but I've not yet taken the plunge.
Also, there's loads of really interesting stuff on there. There's people like cooking on TikTok, makeup on TikTok, and of course the like little TikTok dances.
There's Dr. Glaucomflecken, I think, the Twitter. He's like you know that group of Twitter doctors. They're like are you on Twitter at all?
Not at all.
Well, there's a very strange. There's just this small group of sort of doctors that are also comedians. They're really, really funny. And well, one I recommend to everyone at home, Dr. Glaucomflecken. I think he's an ophthalmologist, but has recently, in the wake of all this, joined TikTok. It's the strangest thing. But
when I follow you on TikTok, send me his TikTok so I can join in the hype. So I can actually finally join in the hype. But no, Twitter's the one thing. Like, I have a Twitter account just so I have it, but I've probably logged in Twitter twice in my whole entire life, at most.
I honestly use it more as I use Twitter as a more professional network than anything else. I think now, even though it used to be, you know, cat pictures and everything else that the internet was, I feel like for medics, it's actually, I personally use it more as a professional networking type platform, more than something like Instagram, for example.
That's actually good to know. That's how I may have to actually dabble in the Twitter at some point.
Okay, right. Closing remarks, Rumbi. I realise we've gone deep into the social media curve. I want from you, what one golden piece of advice, one take-home message for all the people? Let's just keep it to the pre-meds, the backbone of this channel. Anyone who wants to go and study medicine and become a good doctor, as someone who has now been through med school from start to finish, and you're about to be a doctor yourself, what's one key piece of take-home advice?
Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's path is different. So just you, as the pre-med watching this now, you're on your journey. Your journey may have ups, it may have downs, it may have twists, it may have turns. But that's not to say you're not going to make it to the final destination of being a doctor. So don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged by the UKCAT or UKCAT. Don't be discouraged by the GAMSAT or whatever other test that you have to take and maybe your result is not what you want it to be. Don't be discouraged if you apply and maybe don't get in, because that happens to a lot of people. So I guess after all of that saying, my one big piece of advice is it's okay, it's okay for your journey to be different as long as you persevere and make it. I think that's in a nutshell.
That'll do. That's profound and golden advice. So that's where we will wrap. Thank you so much for being on this afternoon, Rumbi. So just for the people who, and I recommend that people do, for the people that want to follow you and catch up with what you're doing, how can they do that?
Instagram at Rumbi the Medic, or you can find me on YouTube, Rumbi the Medic, RUMBI the Medic. That's me. Come along, come join the fun.
We'll make sure that links are shared in association with this video, and you can go and find those both in the comments and the description. Take care, Rumbi, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.